Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting edition of Ed Puzzle Lecture Notes. Same as a regular lecture in college, just on your computer. In our last lecture, we went over the macromolecules or the polymers, carbohydrates, and lipids. If you remember, carbohydrates are made from the monomers, sugars. So you put a bunch of sugars together, you get carbohydrates. Remember, lipids were made from the monomers, fatty acids, and glycerol. And lipids are basically things like fats or oils or waxes. Today, we're going to go over two more, the last two organic macromolecules. So our daily objective, you should be able to identify the monomers, which make up nucleic acids and proteins. And also, you should be able to describe what role nucleic acids and proteins play within the body or within living organisms. All right, I hope you enjoy it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting edition of Ed Puzzle Lecture Notes. Same as a regular lecture, just on your computer. Now, where we left off last time, we went over carbohydrates and we also went over lipids. Now, the first thing I want to ask you is, what are the monomers? The monomers which make up carbohydrates. Let's see if you remember. That's right. The monomers which make up carbohydrates are sugars. Sugars. Now, what is the most important function of carbohydrates? Let's see if you remember that. Ding, ding, ding. You are right. The most important function of carbohydrates is that they are the primary source of energy for living things. Now, moving on to lipids. What is the monomers, or the little smaller units, which, when you put them together, form lipids? See if you remember. That's right. The monomers which make up lipids are fatty acids and glycerol. And what, on my notes, was the most important function of lipids? See if you remember. That is once again correct. In my notes, the most important function of lipids is that they make up most of your cell membranes. So like the little boundary that protects your cells and allows certain things to come in and out of your cells, that is made up of lipids. And now we're moving on to the third organic polymer or macromolecule, protein. Super, super, super important. Protein. All right. So first thing you need to know, what are the monomers? What are the little subunits? What are the little Legos that you have to put together to form a protein? Well, in this case, it's not fatty acids, but it's amino acids. So if you join a lot of amino acids together, you bond them with what's called peptide bonds, you get a protein. Now, the chemical component, what are they made out of? They're made out of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen now, and oxygen. Are you going to need to know that in my class? You won't. I'm not going to ask you about that. Functions, definitely need to know it. Shape and structure. So basically like this guy right here, his muscles made mostly of proteins. Here's another one, not super duper important, that's why I'm going to put it in yellow. Fight disease, antibodies, which your body produced to help fight illness, made of proteins. Now I'm going to put this one in kind of red because we're going to need to know this one, especially in our next unit. They help substances cross the cell membrane. So, proteins can act as channels or kind of like doors. Doors. So you have your cell membrane which surrounds your whole cell, and then you have the nucleus in there. Well, how do things get in and out? Some things can move in and out freely. They go straight through the cell membrane, things like oxygen and carbon dioxide. Other things need a door. They need a little door, like bigger things like glucose. Even water needs a little door. And those doors are made of proteins, which allow large or polar molecules to enter or leave the cell. But by far the most important, in my opinion, function that enzymes perform in the body, at least in this class, they speed up chemical reactions within the body. They speed up chemical reactions because of these special proteins called, and I'm going to underline it 100 times, enzymes. Enzymes, 20, 40, 30, 32, okay, there's 100. Enzymes. If you're going to remember anything about proteins as far as this unit, remember enzymes. They speed up chemical reactions. All right, so that is the most important things you need to know about proteins, but some more things just for added info. Write it if you want. All right, so body example, muscle, skin, bone, hair, the things that give you your structure. Primarily or partially made of proteins. Now, if you want, like, hey, I want to know what foods are high in protein so I can start to look like this guy. Meats, of course, chicken, beef, beans, eggs, and nuts like peanuts, all high in protein. And once again, the polymer or the macromolecule is a protein, and they're made from bonding together a bunch of the monomers, the amino acids. Now, when you move on in AP Bio, you'll need to know this, but don't write it for me because you're not going to need to know it in my class. Amino acids are built from an amino group, which is the nitrogen bonded with two hydrogens, and also a carboxyl group, which is COOH. But do not write that in my class because you will not need to know that. And here's just a diagram of a protein. They have a crazy shape. And remember, it is the shape of proteins which determines their job or their function. So you can see here a bunch of little amino acids. They're all bonded together. Those are the monomers. You stick a bunch of amino acids together. Those are peptide bonds. So here you can see this is the same as that. And this protein is just all wrapped around each other. Has a real crazy shape. So that's kind of what a protein looks like. But definitely know that proteins are made from the monomers, amino acids. Takes a lot of amino acids bonded together to make a protein. And also that it's the shape of the protein that determines its function. So it needs this shape, this exact shape, for it to do its job. Okay, now some Aroso notes, because I take notes too. Takes me a little longer, but I don't care. Taking notes is not hard to do. All right, so what's the polymer we're talking about here? Proteins. Now I'm going to ask you, what is the monomers that make up proteins? What are the little subunits, the little Legos that you got to put together in order to form a protein? Let's see if you remember. All right, hopefully you put that the monomers of proteins are called not fatty acids, but amino acids. And what are the two most important functions? These are the ones I'm going to focus on, so I'm only going to write two. One really important function is that they act as doors. Put that in quotes because not really doors. They're called channels. So kind of like doors or channels which allow things to enter or exit the cell. So large molecules that cannot get through the cell membrane, they need a door or a channel to let them in. And there's also proteins that actually act as pumps. So they actually pump things in or out of the cell. And this is one function right here. The other important function is that enzymes. Remember, enzymes are special proteins which speed up chemical reactions. All right, didn't write it super neat, but enzymes, special proteins which speed up chemical reactions within your body, and also they act as channels or pumps to move things across the cell membrane which cannot directly go through the membrane. All right, we're going to take a little quick break from the notes, and I'm going to ask you guys a riddle. What is big, red, and eats rocks? All right, so that's a riddle. What is big, red, and eats rocks? Let's see if you can figure it out. And the answer, of course, is a big red rock eater. All right, we are here to our fourth and final organic polymer or organic macromolecule. And these are the nucleic acids. Nucleic acids. So the first thing is, nucleic acids are a very long molecule. What are the subunits? What are the smaller molecules which make up nucleic acids? And in this case, it is the nucleotides. You put a bunch of nucleotides together, you get nucleic acids. Now, what are nucleic acids? You've heard of at least one of these. Nucleic acids are your DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, and RNA that's in your body, ribonucleic acid. And RNA is like the little helper of DNA. All right, so it's made of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, and phosphorus. You're not going to need to know that in my class, so write it down if you want to, but you don't really need it. Now, what's the job? What's the role that DNA and RNA, these nucleic acids, do for you, do in your body? Well, they store and transmit your hereditary or genetic information. So, obviously, you get your DNA from both of your parents, from your mom and dad. They passed on their genetic or hereditary information to you. So if your mom has brown hair and your dad has brown hair and you have brown hair, well, that's not just luck. That's because they passed on their genetic information to you. Same thing with eye color, skin color, height. All that is in your DNA. It's in your genetic information. And another thing you need to know, how does your body express? So your DNA has your genetic information, but how does that turn out into, what you are? Do you look like this guy, or what do you look like? Well, it's all about DNA has the instructions for synthesizing or making specific proteins. It is these proteins which give you your traits. It's what gives you your hair color, your eye color, your skin color. All your traits are determined by the proteins that are made in your body. And your specific proteins are made from your specific DNA that you got from your parents. Now, the last thing I would put in your notes is this right here. This is a nucleotide. Remember, that's a monomer that makes up nucleic acids. So you put a bunch of nucleotides together, you get nucleic acids like DNA and RNA. But I want you to draw this little figure right here and label it. So the first, you got a circle right here, and that is a phosphate. Phosphate. Hopefully you can read that. That's a phosphate, which is bonded to a 5-carbon sugar, and if it's DNA, that sugar is deoxyribose. Deoxyribose. And if it's RNA, that sugar is just ribose, not deoxyribose. So that's why RNA is called RNA, because it has ribose as its sugar. And DNA is called it because it has deoxyribose as its sugar. And then that sugar is bonded to a nitrogen base. And in DNA, you're not going to need to know this now, but you might as well start to learn it anyways. In DNA, there's 4 different nitrogen bases. A, which stands for adenine. T, which stands for thymine. C, which stands for cytosine. And G, which stands for guanine. Do you need to know that right now? No, you do not. But it's never too early to start learning it. And now the last Aroso notes. Yes, I'm taking some more notes. So in this case, we have the last polymer or organic macromolecule, nucleic acids. Remember, what is the monomer? What are the smaller little subunits, smaller molecules which make nucleic acids? Let's see if you remember. Yes, you are right. The monomers which make nucleic acids are nucleotides. And what do nucleotides look like? Remember, you have circle. It's not really a circle, but that is a phosphate, which is bonded to a 5-carbon sugar. If it's DNA, deoxyribose. So if it's DNA, it's got deoxyribose sugar. If it's RNA, it's got ribose as its sugar. And that is bonded to one of 4 different nitrogen bases. Now, what is the function of these nucleic acids that you have in your cells? Remember, these are found in the nucleus of your cells. But anyways, what's their function? They transmit and store your genetic information. So they store your genetic information, which is kind of like the code to make you who you are. It gives you your dark hair, how tall you are, eye color, all that stuff. All that information that makes you who you are is stored in Mr. DNA. And their other function, that's one. So the way you get these traits, your eye color, is because DNA has the code for making specific proteins. And it is those proteins that your body makes from the code in DNA which gives you all of your traits. All right, thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.